China's powerful market regulator has officially accused U.S. chip giant Nvidia of violating the country's anti-monopoly laws, marking another escalation in the ongoing technological and economic rivalry between Washington and Beijing. Although the Chinese watchdog stopped short of disclosing specific details regarding Nvidia's alleged infractions, it confirmed that the investigation remains active and that further updates will be provided as the probe progresses. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. In a swift response, Nvidia issued a statement asserting that it complies with the law in all respects, and emphasized its commitment to cooperate fully with all relevant government agencies. The company maintained that it continues to operate transparently within international regulatory frameworks, seeking to distance itself from the growing geopolitical tensions that have repeatedly drawn global semiconductor manufacturers into the heart of the US-China trade conflict. The timing of China's announcement is notable. It came as senior American and Chinese officials concluded the second day of crucial trade negotiations in Madrid, Spain, the latest round of talks aimed at easing the prolonged trade war between the world's two largest economies. These meetings, co-chaired by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, focused on a range of issues, including tariffs, technology exports, and the regulation of digital platforms such as TikTok. Following the talks, President Donald Trump suggested that a significant breakthrough had been reached, particularly regarding the controversial U.S. ban on TikTok, the Chinese-owned video-sharing app that has faced repeated threats of prohibition in the United States. Speaking on his Truth Social platform, Trump cryptically remarked that a deal was reached on a certain company that young people in our country very much wanted to save, adding that he would be speaking directly with Chinese President Xi Jinping soon. The relationship remains a very strong one, he concluded, signaling a momentary thaw in an otherwise strained diplomatic relationship. TikTok's fate had been uncertain for months, as the app faced mounting pressure from Washington over data privacy and national security concerns. The Biden and Trump administrations have both expressed skepticism about Chinese control of the app's data, insisting that it poses potential risks to U.S. users. Under the Trump administration, the app's parent company, ByteDance, was given several ultimatums to sell TikTok's U.S. operations to an American buyer or face a ban, deadlines that have now been extended multiple times. The most recent deadline was set to expire on Wednesday, but with the latest negotiations in Madrid, expectations are growing that it may be extended for a fourth time. The White House itself has also softened its stance in recent months. In a notable shift, an official TikTok account for the administration was launched in August, marking a pragmatic acceptance of the platform's massive influence. TikTok, which boasts around 170 million users in the United States alone, remains one of the most popular social media networks globally and plays a growing role in shaping political discourse and youth culture in America. Meanwhile, the Nvidia case underscores how deeply entwined trade, technology, and national security have become in the US-China relationship. The Chinese investigation into Nvidia, first launched in December last year, is widely viewed as part of a broader tit-for-tat retaliation after Washington tightened export restrictions on advanced semiconductor chips bound for Chinese companies. Those restrictions targeted high-end chips essential for powering artificial intelligence, data centers, and advanced military technologies, a move that Beijing denounced as an effort to suppress China's technological rise. Over the past year, the United States has expanded its export controls to limit China's access to cutting-edge semiconductor technologies, citing security concerns. These curbs have significantly impacted companies like Nvidia, whose most advanced products are now subject to strict licensing requirements before they can be sold to Chinese customers. In response, Beijing has been accused of leveraging its domestic regulatory power to strike back, targeting Western firms operating within its borders. Analysts believe that China's decision to invoke anti-monopoly laws against Nvidia serves multiple purposes. On one hand, it allows Beijing to frame its actions as a domestic legal matter, independent of geopolitical motives. On the other, it sends a clear message to Washington that China retains powerful economic levers and is willing to use them as bargaining chips in ongoing trade discussions. Some observers also see it as an attempt to shield China's burgeoning domestic semiconductor sector, which has struggled to compete with Western giants in both performance and innovation. The ongoing trade negotiations in Madrid appeared to touch directly on this technological flashpoint. Reports indicate that the U.S. delegation pressed for clearer guidelines on which types of chips, including those manufactured by Nvidia, would be permitted for sale in China without breaching U.S. export control laws. Both sides reportedly agreed to reconvene in about a month to continue discussions, although the exact location of the next round of talks has not yet been disclosed. Speaking after the talks, Treasury Secretary Bessent described the discussions as very good and constructive, though he declined to provide specific details about the potential TikTok deal or the status of the semiconductor dispute. We preferred to keep the discussions on TikTok, he told reporters, but we will be holding trade negotiations again soon. His statement suggests that while some progress was made, the larger issues surrounding technology access, tariffs, and regulatory alignment remain unresolved. The two sides last met in July, when they agreed to extend their fragile tariff truce by an additional 90 days, delaying the reimposition of harsh import taxes that had once reached more than 100% on certain categories of goods. That truce is currently set to expire on November 10, and both countries appear eager to avoid another escalation that could rattle global markets. For Nvidia, the Chinese investigation represents yet another challenge in a year already marked by growing scrutiny and geopolitical pressure. The company's dominant position in the global AI and graphics processing unit (GPU) market has made it a central player in the high-stakes struggle for technological supremacy. With China being one of its largest markets, any extended legal or regulatory blockade could have serious implications for its global supply chains and profitability. In its statement, Nvidia reiterated its cooperative stance. We will continue to cooperate with all relevant government agencies as they evaluate the impact of export controls on competition in the commercial markets. The company also hinted at the broader consequences of ongoing trade restrictions, warning that excessive regulation could stifle innovation and harm global consumers. While neither Washington nor Beijing has provided official confirmation of any trade deal, the signals emerging from Madrid indicate a cautious optimism. Both nations appear to recognize the heavy toll that prolonged hostilities have taken on their economies and on global markets. Yet, even as diplomats exchange reassurances, the twin issues of semiconductor dominance and digital platform regulation continue to cast a long shadow over U.S.-China relations. As the investigation into Nvidia proceeds and the TikTok deadline looms once more, it is becoming increasingly clear that these are not isolated disputes but rather interconnected threads in a much larger tapestry, one woven from rivalry, dependence, and the pursuit of technological leadership. The outcome of these unfolding events will not only shape the immediate future of U.S.-China relations but may also define the global balance of economic and digital power for years to come. The tension between the United States and China had been simmering for years, shaped by political ambitions, technological rivalry, and a fierce struggle for global dominance. Now, the latest development in this ongoing saga emerged from Beijing, where China's powerful State Administration for Market Regulation announced that the American computer chip giant Nvidia had violated the country's anti-monopoly laws. The revelation sent ripples through the global financial markets, instantly capturing the attention of political leaders, investors, and analysts across continents. Yet, despite the gravity of the accusation, China's regulators offered no detailed explanation of how exactly Nvidia had broken the law. Their brief statement only said that the investigation was ongoing and that further findings would be made public in due time, leaving the world to speculate on what this meant for the company and for the broader state of global trade. Nvidia's response came swiftly and carefully worded. The company declared that it complied, in all respects, with every applicable law and regulation, both in China and elsewhere. It reaffirmed its intention to fully cooperate with all relevant government agencies as the investigation unfolded. Beneath the calm tone of corporate diplomacy, however, there was an unspoken unease. Nvidia was not just any company, it was the crown jewel of the artificial intelligence revolution, the driving force behind machine learning, data processing, and the semiconductor technologies that would define the next century. To accuse Nvidia of violating anti-monopoly rules in China was not simply a legal matter, it was a geopolitical signal, an act loaded with political undertones in the midst of an already fragile global climate. This announcement did not come in isolation. It coincided with a critical moment in global diplomacy, as senior officials from Washington and Beijing gathered in Madrid, Spain, for 2 days of trade talks aimed at repairing the fractured economic relationship between the world's two largest powers. These talks, led by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, were seen as a rare opportunity to reset relations that had been strained by years of tariffs, sanctions, and mutual distrust. The world watched with cautious optimism, wondering whether these discussions would finally mark the beginning of a new era of cooperation, or simply another chapter in an endless cycle